I found out my husband was cheating on me because my sister left her lipstick in my bathroom, not in his car, not in his shirt collar, in my bathroom. And the worst part, it wasn't just any lipstick. It was the shade I bought her for her birthday. If you think that was the worst day of my life, trust me, it wasn't. What came after was worse. Much worse. But before I tell you how I destroyed both of them without ever raising my voice, make sure you subscribe. Because this story, it's not just about betrayal. It's about strategy. And I don't lose. My name is Elena. I was married for 8 years to a man named Daniel. From the outside, we were perfect. He was charming, successful, the kind of man who opened doors and kissed foreheads in public. I ran a small interior design business from home. We had a beautiful house, a decent savings account, and no children yet by choice. And then there was my younger sister, Sophia, soft-spoken, sweet, always needed help, always needed money, always needed me. I practically raised her after our parents died, paid for her college, helped her move to the city, let her stay in our guest room whenever she needed space. I trusted her with everything. That was my first mistake. It started small. Daniel working late more often, Sophia coming over unannounced. Whispers that stopped when I entered the room, but I ignored it because when you love someone deeply, your brain becomes their defense lawyer. He's stressed. She's lonely. I'm overthinking. Until the lipstick. It was a deep wine red shade called Crimson Vow. I remember because she made me drive to 3 stores to find it. I saw it sitting on the edge of my sink. I don't wear red. Ever. My hands went cold. And then I noticed something else. The guest room bed was perfectly made, but the master bed was perfectly made. The sheets were changed. Daniel never changed sheets. Never. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I sat on the edge of the bed, and I thought, if this was happening, I needed proof, and if it was true, I wouldn't explode. I would calculate. That night, I smiled at dinner. I asked Daniel about his day. He kissed my forehead. Sophia texted me at 10:43 p.m. Miss you already. She hadn't been over that day. Interesting, I replied. Miss you too. Then I opened our phone bill account. 2 numbers with hundreds of minutes. One was mine. The other, Sophia's. My stomach twisted. But still, I needed more. Over the next week, I became someone else. I stopped reacting. I started observing. Daniel guarded his phone now, took it to the shower, muted notifications. Sophia suddenly dressed better when she came over. Lipstick, perfume, hair curled. For whom? Certainly not me. Then came the final confirmation. A Saturday afternoon, I told Daniel I had a client meeting. I left the house, drove around the block, parked, waited. 23 minutes later, Sophia's car pulled into my driveway. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. She walked inside with a small overnight bag. Overnight. Bag. I counted to 60. Then I walked to my front door and quietly unlocked it. They didn't hear me. They were laughing. In my kitchen. The same kitchen where I cooked his birthday dinners. The same kitchen where she cried on my shoulder about her bad relationships. And then I heard it. Her voice. Low. Flirty. I told you she'd believe you. Silence. Then Daniel. She trusts you. She always has. My vision went white. Not red. White. Because rage is hot, but betrayal, it's ice. I stepped back outside before they could see me, sat in my car, and for the first time in my life, I stopped being the good sister, the loyal wife, the forgiving woman, That version of me died in that driveway. What was born instead was patient. Most women would have stormed in, thrown things, filed for divorce immediately. But I knew something they didn't. Daniel's company was technically in my name. When he started his business 5 years ago, his credit was terrible. I co-signed everything. Legally, I owned 60%. He liked to forget that. Also, the house. Bought with my inheritance. He contributed later, yes. But on paper, it leaned heavily toward me. And Sophia? She was drowning in student debt. Debt I had quietly guaranteed. They thought I was the naive one. They forgot I handled paperwork. I went home that evening pretending nothing happened. Sophia was gone. Daniel looked relaxed. Too relaxed. Client meeting go well? He asked. Perfect, I smiled. And I meant it, because I had just gained clarity. That night, while he slept, I transferred copies of every financial document to a private cloud. Screenshots, account access, passwords. I scheduled a consultation with a lawyer under my maiden name. And then I did something unexpected. I invited Sophia to brunch. Alone. She showed up wearing that lipstick. Crimson Vow. Bold. Confident. Careless. "How are you?" she asked sweetly. I smiled. "I'm wonderful. Actually, I have news." Her eyes flickered. Guilt. Fear. Or maybe excitement. "I'm restructuring Daniel's company," I said casually, thinking of stepping back from my ownership. Her fork paused mid-air. "Oh?" "Yes. It's stressful. I might transfer majority shares." She leaned in slightly. "To Daniel?" I sipped my coffee. Maybe. Hope flashed across her face so fast she couldn't hide it. That's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't drunken confusion. This was planned. Strategic. They thought I was the stepping stone. They had no idea I was the architect. Over the next month, I played the long game. I acted distracted, tired, emotional. I told Daniel I felt insecure lately. He reassured me. While texting her under the table, I started documenting everything. Dates, times, expenses, hotel receipts hidden in joint statements. Then I did something even smarter. I opened a new account. Quietly moved a significant portion of my inheritance legally mine into a protected trust. I met with the lawyer twice. She smiled when she reviewed the documents. "Are you sure you want to wait?" she asked. "Yes," I said, "because revenge is best served strategically." And I wasn't done, not even close. The turning point came when Daniel suggested something shocking. "Maybe Sophia should move in for a while," he said one evening. "She's struggling financially." I almost laughed. "Almost. That's a wonderful idea," I replied. He blinked. He expected resistance. Instead, he got cooperation, and that terrified him more. Sophia moved in 2 weeks later. Into my guest room, again. But this time, I had cameras installed. Not hidden in bedrooms, I'm not that reckless. But entrances, living areas, driveway, completely legal. And the footage confirmed everything. Kisses in the hallway when they thought I was asleep. Hands lingering too long. Late night work discussions in his office. I collected it all, neatly, patiently. And then I discovered something that changed the entire game. Something they never meant for me to find. A bank transfer from Daniel's business account to Sophia. Large, very large, and labeled for our future. Our future. Not his, not hers, theirs. That's when I realized they weren't just having an affair, they were planning to replace me. And that's when I stopped playing defense. If they thought they were playing me, They forgot who built the board. The bank transfer changed everything. For our future, not a mistake, not confusion, not lust. This was a plan. They weren't just sleeping together, they were building something behind my back. And the worst part? They thought I would fund it. I didn't cry that night. I didn't confront him. I opened my laptop. The transfer was large enough to raise questions in an audit. And since I technically owned 60% of the company, I had every legal right to request a financial review. But I didn't do it immediately, because if you strike too early, people become cautious. I wanted them comfortable, relaxed, confident. So instead, I did something subtle. I hired a forensic accountant under my maiden name, quietly, privately, and I gave him access to everything. Within a week, he found multiple transfers, small ones at first, then larger ones, payments disguised as consulting fees. To Sophia. My sister had no consulting contract, no official role, nothing, which meant one thing: embezzlement. And Daniel, he had signed every transfer. I leaned back in my chair and finally allowed myself to feel something. Not rage, power. Meanwhile, in my own house, they were getting careless. Sophia had started cooking dinner when I worked late. Daniel praised her constantly. "You should learn this recipe," he told me one night. I smiled. "I will." I already knew the recipe. It was mine. She had copied it from my old notebook. Even my handwriting. They were living in my world, using my things, building their fantasy on my foundation. That fantasy was about to collapse. The next step required precision. I scheduled a shareholder meeting. Official. Documented. Daniel looked confused when he received the email. "We've never done formal meetings before," he said. "I know," I replied calmly, "but with the company growing, it's time to be professional." He couldn't argue with that, especially not with 60% ownership on my side. Sophia overheard us, her eyes narrowed. She knew something was shifting. The meeting was 3 days later, just Daniel and me in the home office. I wore a navy blazer, hair pulled back, minimal makeup, no emotion. He walked in, relaxed, walked out sweating. I placed printed documents in front of him, highlighted transfers, dates, amounts. "What's this?" he asked. "You tell me." Silence stretched. He flipped pages. His jaw tightened. "They're consulting payments." "For what services?" He hesitated. Sophia was helping with marketing. "Show me the contract." More silence. "There isn't one yet." I folded my hands. "Then it's unauthorized distribution of company funds." His face changed, not guilt. Fear. "Elena, don't do this." "Do what?" "You know what." I tilted my head slightly. "Explain." He leaned forward. "It's not what you think." Interesting. Because I hadn't accused him of anything else yet. He was revealing himself. "I think," I said softly, "that company money was transferred without documentation. That's illegal." His breathing shifted. "You wouldn't report me." There it was. The assumption. The arrogance. The belief that my loyalty outweighed my self-respect. I stood up slowly. "I haven't decided what I'll do yet." And I walked out. That night, Sophia knocked on my bedroom door. She never did that before. "Can we talk?" she asked gently. I opened it. "Of course." She stepped inside, sat on the edge of my bed. My bed. "Elena, I feel like something's wrong." I almost laughed. "Oh? You've been distant." "I've been busy." She reached for my hand. "I don't want anything to come between us." The irony was suffocating. I squeezed her fingers. "Nothing will." And I meant it, because by the time I was done, there would be nothing left between us at all. The next morning, I made my real move. I filed a temporary freeze on large outgoing transfers from the company account, legally justified, as majority shareholder. Daniel called me within minutes. "What did you do?" I kept my voice calm. "Standard precaution during financial review. You're humiliating me." "No," I corrected gently. "You humiliated yourself." He went silent. Then he said something that confirmed everything. "This isn't about money, is it?" There it was. I let the silence answer him. He hung up first. That evening, I came home to tension. Sophia wouldn't look at me. Daniel avoided conversation. Good. Pressure creates cracks, and cracks reveal truth. I went upstairs, opened my laptop, and emailed my lawyer. We were ready. But I wanted one more thing. Proof of intent, proof that they planned to build a future together. So I waited. 3 nights later, I got it. I couldn't sleep. Went downstairs for water, and heard whispers in the living room. I stayed in the shadows. Sophia's voice trembled. "What if she finds out?" Daniel sighed. "She won't. I'll convince her to transfer her shares. Then we'll move everything. The house, too. Move everything. The house, my inheritance, my company, my life." "And if she refuses?" Sophia asked. "She won't," he said confidently. "She trusts me." I stepped backward quietly. My heart didn't race, it hardened. Because now, it wasn't just an affair. It was a takeover. And they thought I was the weak link. The next morning, I made a call. Not to my lawyer, not to the accountant. To someone they never expected. Daniel's biggest investor, a man who valued reputation above all. I requested a private meeting, and I brought documentation. If Daniel wanted to gamble with company funds, let's raise the stakes. But I didn't tell Daniel that. Instead, I made breakfast, acted normal, kissed his cheek. Sophia watched me carefully, trying to read me. Let her. By the time she realized what I was doing, it would be too late, because betrayal hurts. But calculated betrayal destroys. The morning I met Daniel's biggest investor, I wore the dress he loved most, soft blue, elegant, calm. Because nothing terrifies guilty people more than confidence. I arrived 10 minutes early, sat in the lobby, hands steady, heart steady, mind sharper than it had ever been. When Mr. Carter walked in, he smiled politely. He had known Daniel for years, trusted him, funded him, praised him in meetings. And today, I was about to change that. "Mrs. Rivera," he said, shaking my hand. "Elena," I corrected gently. We sat. I didn't accuse. I didn't cry. I presented. I showed him the transfers. Dates, amounts, no contracts, no documentation. Company funds moving into a personal account belonging to my sister. His expression shifted from confusion to concern, to cold calculation. "This could create liability," he said quietly. "Yes," I replied, "which is why I came to you first. Not to destroy Daniel, but to protect the company. That's what investors care about. Reputation, stability, trust." Mr. Carter leaned back. "Is Daniel aware you're reviewing finances?" "Yes." "And?" "He says they were consulting payments." Mr. Carter tapped the papers. "Without a contract. That's reckless." I nodded. "I want to resolve it privately. But I needed you to know in case it escalates." He looked at me carefully. In that moment, I saw respect. Not pity. Respect. "Keep me updated," he said. "And Elena, thank you for being responsible." Responsible. The word felt heavy. Because responsibility was the reason I was betrayed in the first place. Daughter Levin, I got home. Daniel was waiting, angry, pale. How dare you go to Carter behind my back? So he knew good. I didn't go behind your back, I said calmly. I went as majority shareholder protecting the company. You're trying to ruin me. I tilted my head. No, you're ruining yourself. Sophia stood behind him in the hallway, silent, watching, afraid. Because for the first time they realized I wasn't the quiet wife anymore. That night Daniel tried a different tactic. Flowers, apology, soft voice. Elena, I've been under pressure. I made bad financial decisions, that's all. Bad financial decisions. Interesting choice of words. No problem, I smiled. Return the money. Silence. His jaw tightened. That's complicated. Of course it was, because the money wasn't for consulting, it was their escape plan. 2 days later, the company's internal audit began. Official. Legal. Documented. Daniel stopped sleeping. Sophia stopped smiling. They whispered more, fought quietly, blamed each other, and I watched. Because guilt makes people careless, and careless people reveal secrets. I found the next secret in Sophia's room. I wasn't snooping. I was putting clean towels away. Her laptop was open, a message on the screen. From Daniel. I'll talk to the lawyer next week. Once Elena signs, we'll be free. Once Elena signs. Signs what? I scrolled. There it was, a draft agreement. Transfer of majority shares to Daniel, prepared by a lawyer. Without telling me, my hands went cold. They weren't just planning to take my money, they were preparing paperwork. Behind my back, using deception. That's when something inside me finally broke. Not loudly, not violently, quietly. Like glass cracking under pressure. That evening, I invited them both to dinner. Candlelight, music, wine. Daniel looked nervous. Sophia looked terrified. Good, I raised my glass. To family, I said softly. They clinked glasses. Their hands trembled. I smiled. Because they had no idea, the next week would change their lives forever. The audit findings arrived Friday morning: irregular transfers, lack of documentation, possible misuse of funds, nothing criminal yet. But enough to trigger investor review. Daniel called me immediately. What do you want? He demanded. There it was, not apology, not regret, negotiation. I leaned back in my chair. I want honesty. Silence. Then anger. You're overreacting. It was just money. Just money. I closed my eyes briefly. 8 years of marriage. A lifetime of sisterhood. Reduced to just money. No, I said quietly. It wasn't. That night, Sophia knocked on my door again. Crying. Real tears this time. Elena, please don't destroy him. Interesting. Not don't destroy us. Him. I watched her carefully. Why? I asked. He loves you. The lie hung in the air like smoke. I smiled sadly. No, I said gently. He loves what I built. She broke. Collapsed into sobs. I didn't mean for this to happen. There it was, the beginning of confession. But not enough. Not yet, because I didn't want excuses. I wanted truth. Over the weekend, Daniel tried one last move. He handed me papers. The share transfer agreement. Elena, sign this. It'll simplify taxes. Taxes. I almost admired the creativity. I looked at the paper, then at him, then at Sophia standing behind him, watching, hoping. I picked up a pen. Their faces lit up. And then I tore the paper in half, slowly, silently. Daniel's face went white. Sophia gasped. I placed the pieces on the table. You should have asked nicely, I said, and I walked upstairs. That night, I sent 3 emails. One to my lawyer, one to Mr. Carter, one to myself, with every piece of evidence backed up. Because the next phase wasn't about suspicion. It was about exposure. Public. Legal. Final. The night after I tore those papers in half, Daniel didn't come to bed. I heard whispers downstairs. Voices sharp, angry, panicked. They were finally scared. Good. Fear makes truth rise to the surface. And I was done waiting. Monday morning, I called a family meeting. Just the 3 of us. Kitchen table. Sunlight pouring through the windows. Everything looked peaceful, normal. That's the funny thing about betrayal. It hides in beautiful places. Daniel walked in first, tired, unshaven, eyes red. Sophia followed slowly, clutching her coffee mug like a shield. I placed 3 folders on the table, one for each of us. Open them, I said calmly. Daniel hesitated. Sophia's hands shook. They opened the folders, and silence swallowed the room. Inside were copies of everything. Bank transfers, audit findings, messages, dates, times, camera stills of them kissing in the hallway. Nothing illegal, nothing hidden, just truth, printed in black ink. Sophia started crying immediately. Daniel didn't. He stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Elena, listen. No, I said gently. You listen. My voice was calm, too calm. I know about the affair. Sophia sobbed louder. Daniel froze, and in that moment the illusion shattered. 8 years of marriage, gone in one sentence. Ha! He tried denial first. It wasn't serious. Then blame. You've been distant. Then anger. You're spying on us. Then pleading. We made a mistake. Every line sounded smaller than the last. I watched him like a stranger. Because that's what he was now. A stranger in my house. Sophia collapsed to her knees beside my chair. Elena, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I never meant. I stood up, moved away from her. Because apologies don't fix betrayal planned over months. I raised you, I said quietly. She cried harder. I trusted you. She reached for my hand. I didn't let her touch me. Then Daniel said something that changed everything. We love each other. The room went silent. Even Sophia stopped crying. He realized too late what he had admitted. But the truth was out. They weren't confused. They weren't drunk. They weren't mistaken. They were together, deliberately. And suddenly, I felt calm. Because clarity is power. I slid one last document across the table. Divorce papers. Already prepared. Daniel stared. Sophia gasped. You can't be serious, he said. I am. His voice rose. You'll destroy everything. I looked around my kitchen. My everything was destroyed already. Silence. Heavy. Final. But I wasn't done. Because betrayal has consequences, and they had tried to take more than love. They tried to take my company, my house, my future. So I made it clear. The company audit continues, I said. Unauthorized transfers must be returned. Daniel's hands shook. And if not, he asked quietly. I met his eyes. Then the investors decide what happens next. He understood. Reputation, career, everything on the line. Sophia whispered, Where will I go? For a second, just a second, my heart hurt, because she was still my sister, but she had chosen. So I answered honestly, I don't know. She cried harder. Daniel tried one last move. Elena, we can fix this. I smiled sadly. No, I said. You can live with it. By evening, they were packing. Daniel left first, suitcases in hand. No hug. No goodbye. Just silence. Sophia stayed in her room, crying. Calling friends. No one answered. Because betrayal isolates and secrets destroy trust. Even outside the house. The next morning, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I walked through each room slowly, memories everywhere. Birthdays, Christmas mornings, late night movies, laughter, all real, all gone. I didn't cry. Because grief had already burned through me. What remained was strength. That afternoon, Daniel called, his voice small. I'll return the money. Good, through your lawyer, I replied. He hesitated. Elena, do you hate me? I thought for a moment. No, I said finally. I don't feel anything anymore. And that hurt him more than anger ever could. But the story wasn't over. Because revenge isn't just exposure. It's closure. And closure requires truth. The full truth. 2 nights later, Sophia texted me, I need to tell you everything. I agreed to meet her. One last time. Because something in her message felt different. Not fear, not guilt. Something deeper. When Sophia texted me, I need to tell you everything, I almost ignored it. Because what more could she possibly say? I already knew about the affair, the money, the lies. What else was left? But something in her message felt desperate, not scared, not manipulative, desperate. So I agreed to meet her. One last time. We met at a small cafe across town. Neutral ground, no memories, no history. She looked different, no makeup, no lipstick, no confidence. Just a tired girl who looked like she hadn't slept in days. For a second, I saw the little sister I used to braid hair for. Then I remembered everything, and my heart hardened again. She sat down slowly. Elena, I don't deserve forgiveness. You're right, I said quietly. She nodded. Tears filled her eyes. I still need to tell you the truth. I crossed my arms. Talk. She took a shaky breath. It didn't start the way you think. I said nothing, because I wanted facts, not excuses. She continued. Daniel came to me first, months ago. My chest tightened. He said you were planning to leave him. I blinked. What? She nodded. He told me you were hiding money, that you didn't love him anymore, that you were just waiting to divorce him. Silence filled the cafe. Because that was a lie, a complete lie. And suddenly, pieces started shifting. He said he needed my help, Sophia whispered. He said he was scared you'd take everything. I leaned back slowly. So you helped him steal from me? She cried. I thought I was protecting him. The irony hurt. You weren't protecting him, I said softly. You were betraying me. She nodded. I know. Then she said something that shocked me. I tried to stop it. I stared at her. When the money transfer started getting bigger, I told him it was wrong. And? He said it was temporary, that once you signed the share transfer, he'd fix everything. My stomach twisted. So the plan was always there, from the beginning. Not passion, not confusion, a strategy. But the affair? I asked quietly. She closed her eyes. That was my fault. Finally, truth. After a few weeks, he started saying how lonely he was, how cold you'd become, how no one understood him except me. Classic, predictable, cruel. I believed him, she whispered. And then, it happened. She covered her face. I hated myself after. But by then, I was trapped. Trapped. That word stayed with me. Because betrayal often starts with lies and ends with choices. Why tell me now? I asked. She looked up. Because he lied to me too. Interesting. How? She swallowed. He told me once you signed the shares, we'd move to another city together. My hands went cold. And he met with a lawyer last week. I overheard him. She paused. He wasn't planning to stay with me. Silence. He was transferring assets to a private account, then divorcing you, then leaving both of us. The room felt like it tilted, because suddenly, the story changed again. Daniel didn't love me. Daniel didn't love her. Daniel loved control. I sat there breathing slowly, every memory replaying, every lie connecting. He used me for stability. He used her for escape, and he planned to abandon both. For money, for ego, for power. Sophia whispered. I didn't know what to do. I ruined everything. I looked at her, really looked. She wasn't innocent. But she wasn't the mastermind either. She was a weak person, manipulated by a selfish one, just like me. I have proof, she said suddenly. My eyes sharpened. Proof of what? She opened her bag, pulled out printed emails. Between Daniel and another lawyer. Plans to move assets. Fake consulting contracts. Draft divorce terms designed to leave me with nothing. Nothing. He really thought I was stupid. I took the papers, read them slowly, carefully. Every word confirmed it. Daniel wasn't just unfaithful. He was planning financial betrayal, legal betrayal, total destruction. I looked up at Sophia. Why give me this? She cried quietly. Because I owe you the truth, even if you never speak to me again. We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, I spoke. You hurt me more than anyone ever has. She nodded. I know. But you told me the truth when it mattered. More tears. I don't deserve kindness, she whispered. I stood up, left money on the table. I'm not forgiving you, I said softly, but I'm not destroying you either, she sobbed, and I walked away. Because revenge isn't about hurting everyone. It's about stopping the one who planned it all. That night, I called my lawyer again, and this time I gave her everything. Emails, transfers, audit results, camera stills, Daniel's lies, his secret plan. She listened quietly, then said one sentence. He's in serious trouble. For the first time since this began, I smiled. Because justice doesn't scream. Justice prepares. The next morning, Daniel called me again, voice confident. Fake charm. Elena, we should settle privately. I almost laughed. Oh, we will, I said calmly. He relaxed. Good, because he still didn't know I had just gained the final piece. Part 6. Checkmate. The morning Daniel asked to settle privately. I knew the end was close. Because guilty people don't want peace. They want control. And Daniel had lost it. He just didn't know yet. We agreed to meet at his lawyer's office. Neutral ground. Formal. Final. I wore black. Simple. Calm. Focused. My lawyer sat beside me, quiet and prepared. Daniel walked in late, confident smile on his face like nothing had happened. He thought this was negotiation. He thought I was emotional. He thought he could still win. That was his last mistake. His lawyer began first. Mr. Rivera proposes an amicable divorce, division of assets 50-50. 50. After betrayal, after secret transfers, after trying to take my shares, I almost admired the audacity. My lawyer didn't react. She slid a folder across the table. Before discussing division, she said calmly, we need to address unauthorized company transactions. Daniel's smile faded. His lawyer frowned. They opened the folder, and silence filled the room. Inside were everything: audit reports, transfer records, emails planning asset movement, drafts of fake consulting agreements, and Sophia's proof that he planned to abandon both of us after taking control. Daniel's face went pale. "Elena, this is ridiculous." My lawyer spoke gently. "Attempted financial misconduct can lead to serious civil consequences." His lawyer stared at him. "You didn't tell me about this." Daniel said nothing, because lies collapse under light. Then my lawyer said the sentence that ended his confidence. "If Mr. Pritt Rivera wants to avoid investor investigation and legal escalation, he must return all transferred funds immediately and accept revised asset terms." Revised terms? Daniel swallowed. "What terms?" I spoke for the first time. Calm, steady. "You keep what you earned honestly. Nothing more." He stared at me. "You'll ruin my reputation." I looked at him quietly. "You ruined it yourself." For a moment he looked angry, then desperate, then small. "Elena, please," he whispered. "Don't do this. 8 years. Gone in one word, please." But it wasn't regret, it was fear. So I answered honestly, "I'm not doing anything to you. I'm protecting myself." And that's when he understood. The game was over. The settlement took 3 hours, money returned, shares untouched, house secured, debt responsibility clarified, legal signatures placed. Daniel's hands trembled as he signed, because for the first time he had to face consequences. Not screaming, not drama, just reality. Quiet, cold, final. When it ended, he looked at me one last time. "Elena, did you ever love me?" The question surprised me. I thought carefully. "Yes," I said softly. He closed his eyes. "And now?" I stood up. "Now I love myself more." And I walked out. The divorce finalized weeks later. No scandals, no public fights, just paperwork. Because real revenge doesn't need noise. It needs truth. And patience. Daniel lost investors slowly. Reputation faded. Not because I exposed him publicly, but because trust once broken never returns. People noticed. People talked. Opportunities disappeared. Quiet consequences. The kind that last. Sophia moved to another city. She sent me letters. Apologies, regret, memories. I didn't reply. Not out of hate. Out of healing. Some relationships can't be repaired, even with truth. One evening, months later, I sat alone in my house, peaceful, quiet, mine. For the first time in years, I slept without wondering who was lying to me. And I realized something important. Revenge isn't about destroying people. It's about rebuilding yourself so strong they can never hurt you again. But there was one last thing left. Closure. Because sometimes the end of betrayal brings unexpected beginnings. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, on a quiet Sunday evening when the sky was painted in soft shades of gold and gray, there was a knock at my door. Not a hesitant knock, not an aggressive one. Just 3 steady taps that somehow carried the weight of everything we had been through. I already knew who it was before I even looked through the camera monitor. Some instincts don't disappear. They just become quieter, sharper. Daniel stood there without the tailored suits, without the confident posture, without the charm he used to wear like armor. He looked smaller, not physically, but energetically. Like life had finally pressed him down to his real size. I opened the door, but I didn't invite him in. The air between us felt different now. It wasn't heavy with betrayal anymore. It was light with detachment. He searched my face, probably expecting anger or sadness or maybe even longing. But he found none of it. What he found the kind of calm that only comes after you survive something that was meant to destroy you. "I just wanted to see you," he said quietly, his voice stripped of its usual smoothness. "I made mistakes. I lost everything." I studied him for a long moment, not with cruelty, not with softness either. "Just observation. You didn't lose everything," I replied evenly. "You lost what you tried to manipulate." He swallowed hard. He told me investors had pulled back permanently, that his reputation had suffered in ways he never anticipated, that friends had distanced themselves, that Sophia had left months ago after realizing he had never truly planned a future with her. He admitted, finally without excuses, that he had been greedy, that he had convinced himself he deserved more, that he thought I would never stand up for myself because I had always been the steady one, the forgiving one, the understanding one. And that was the moment I realized something profound. He never actually knew me. He knew the version of me that tolerated him. He never knew the version that could walk away. He asked if there was any chance we could start over. The question hung there, fragile and almost embarrassing. I didn't laugh. I didn't get angry. I simply shook my head slowly. "Starting over requires honesty from the beginning," I said, and we never had that. There was no dramatic shouting, no cinematic goodbye, just acceptance settling into his expression. He nodded like a man who had finally stopped fighting reality. Before he turned to leave, he looked at the house he once thought he would take from me, and then back at me. "You're stronger than I thought," he said. "No," I answered softly. "I was always this strong, you just never noticed." And then he walked away, not defeated by me, but by his own choices. After he left, I didn't cry. I didn't feel victorious in a loud, triumphant way. What I felt was closure, clean and quiet, the kind that doesn't demand applause, the kind that simply settles into your bones and says, "It's over." In the months that followed, I rebuilt more than my finances or my routines. I rebuilt my boundaries. I expanded my business without his shadow attached to it. I renovated parts of the house not because I needed to erase memories, but because I wanted the space to reflect who I had become. Stronger, sharper, more self-aware. I traveled alone for the first time in years. I learned that peace is addictive once you taste it. I reconnected with parts of myself that had been buried under compromise. Sophia wrote to me once more, a long letter filled with accountability rather than excuses. She admitted her jealousy, her weakness, her regret. She said she understood if I never responded. This time I did reply, not to reopen the relationship, but to close it properly. I told her I wished her growth, but from a distance. Forgiveness, I learned, doesn't always mean reunion. Sometimes it simply means releasing the weight so you can move forward lighter. People often think revenge looks like destruction, public humiliation, dramatic exposure, explosive endings. But real revenge, the kind that changes the trajectory of your life, looks different. It looks like discipline. It looks like documentation. It looks like silence at the right time and action at the precise moment. It looks like protecting yourself legally, emotionally, financially, so thoroughly that the person who tried to break you ends up facing the consequences of their own reflection. Daniel thought betrayal would give him freedom. Instead, it revealed his character. He believed secrecy would protect him. Instead, it isolated him. He assumed my kindness was weakness. Instead, it was restraint. And restraint, when it finally decides to act, is unstoppable. Today, when I wake up in a house that is fully mine, I don't think about them with anger. I think about the lesson. I learned that loyalty without boundaries invites exploitation. I learned that love without self-respect becomes sacrifice. And I learned that sometimes the worst betrayal is the catalyst for the strongest transformation. If you're listening to this and you've been betrayed by a partner, by family, by someone you trusted with your whole heart, Understand something very clearly. You are not powerless. Pain clouds judgment, but patience clarifies strategy. You don't need to scream to be strong. You don't need chaos to win. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to gather evidence, gather courage, and gather your self-worth, and then move with precision. I didn't destroy them. I let their choices destroy the illusion, and in doing so, I rebuilt my reality. That's the difference. That's the power. And that's the end of this story. But it's also the beginning of mine.